Hello everybody, my name is Joshua Person. In the coming days, I'm going to be posting videos about the prophet's, three battles. See, as followers of Jesus, we are constantly battling three enemies: the world, the flesh, and the deceiver. Each one of these battles represented our fight against these enemies. See, Joshua in the Battle of Jericho represented our fight with the world. See, as Christians, we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So a little history on Jericho. Jericho is one of the earliest settlements, dating back to 9000 BCE. It is known for its 12-foot wall, 6-foot width around the city. They had springs in and near the city to supply a large population with water. But in around 1400 BCE, Jericho was the first city attacked by the Israelites after they crossed the Jordan River and entered Canaan. The wall of Jericho was destroyed when the Israelites walked around it for 7 days, carrying the Ark of the Covenant. On the seventh day, Joshua commanded his people to blow their trumpets and shout at the walls until they fell down. The world sometimes seems so big and impenetrable, like the wall of Jericho must have made the Israelites feel. So how does one overcome the world? Well, we're going to read this passage and find out. Everyone turn to your Bibles, Joshua 6, if you want to follow along. Now Jericho was in a state of siege because of the presence of the Israelites, so that no one left or entered. And to Joshua the Lord said, I have delivered Jericho and its king into your power. See, the Lord is saying Joshua already won. I have already delivered Jericho and its king into your power. Okay, chapter 6:3. Have all the soldiers circle the city, marching once around it. Do this for 6 days, with 7 priests carrying ram's horn ahead of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times. Have the priests blow the horns. When they give a long blast on the ram's horn, and you hear that signal, all the people shall shout aloud. The wall of the city will collapse, and they will be able to make a frontal attack. Summoning the priests, Joshua, son of Nun, then ordered them to take up the Ark of the Covenant, with 7 other priests carrying the ram's horn in front of the ark. He then ordered the people to proceed in a circle around the city, with the picked troops marching ahead of the Ark of the Covenant. At this order, they proceeded, with 7 priests who carried the ram's horn before the Lord, blowing the horns, and the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord following them. In front of the priests, with the horns, marched picked troops. The rear guard followed the ark, and the blowing of the horns was kept up continually as they marched. But the people had been commanded by Joshua not to shout or make any noise or outcry until he gave the word. Only then were they to shout. So he had the ark of the Lord circle the city, going once around it, after which they returned to camp for the night. Early the next morning, Joshua had the priests take up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests bearing the ram's horn marched in front of the ark, blowing the horns. Ahead of these marched the picked troops, while the rear guard followed the Ark of the Covenant, and blowing the horns were kept up continually. On the 2nd day, they again marched around the city once, before returning to camp. And for 6 days in all, they did this the same. On the 7th day, beginning at daybreak, they marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. On that day, only did they march around the city 7 times. The 7th time around, the priests blew the horns, and Joshua said to his people, Now shout, for the Lord has given you the city, and everything in it. It is under the Lord's ban. So ban, it typically means it's doomed for destruction. It's under the Lord's plan for it to be destroyed. Only the harlots, Rahab, and all who are in the house with her are to be spared, because she hid the messengers we sent. But be careful not to take in your greed anything that is under the ban. Don't take anything that is doomed to be destroyed. Else you will bring upon the camp of Israel this band and the misery of it. So basically, if you disobey God and take something, he doomed for destruction. It's going to fall under the Israelites. The Israelites going to be destroyed. All the gold, silver and gold, and the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord. They shall be put in the treasury of the Lord. Okay, the fall of Jericho, Joshua 6:20. As the horns blew, the people began to shout. When they heard the signal horn, they raised a tremendous shout. The walls collapsed, and the people stormed the city in a frontal attack and took it. They observed the band by putting to the sword all living creatures in the city, men and women, young and old, as well as oxen, sheep, and asses. So basically, they killed everybody. They were doomed to die, doomed for destruction by the Lord. So the Israelites followed through with the plan. Joshua directed the 2 men who had spied out the land. Go into the harlot's house and bring out the woman with all her kin, as you swore to her you would do. The spies entered and brought out Rahab with her father, mother, brothers, and all their kin. Her entire family they led forth and placed them outside the camp of Israel. The city itself they burned with all that was in it, except for silver, gold, and articles of bronze and iron, which was placed in the treasury of the house of the Lord. Because Rahab the harlot had hidden the messengers who God had sent to reckon near Jericho, Joshua spared her with her family and all her kin, who continue in the midst of Israel to this day. On that occasion, Joshua imposed the oath, "Cursed before the Lord be the man who attempts to rebuild the city." Jericho. He shall lose his firstborn when he lays his foundation, and he shall lose his youngest son when he sets up his gates. Thus the Lord was with Joshua, so that his fame spreads throughout the land. Powerful stuff. Okay, so to answer the question, how does one overcome the world? See, in the passage, God's strategy for defeating Jericho was twofold: for having faith and worshiping. Israel couldn't have defeated Jericho alone. They needed God to win. It is easy to worship God when you are in a church-like setting with other believers, but we are called to go out into a world that is hostile to God and still show it love. So how do we overcome the world? Simply, we don't. Jesus already did that for us. The Israelites didn't defeat Jericho. They listened and had faith in God, continued to worshiping him, and because of that, God destroyed Jericho for them. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys with some scriptures. John 16:33. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have already overcome the world. Hebrews 11:30-31. By faith the walls of Jericho fell, after the army had marched around them for 7 days. By faith the prostitute Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who was disobedient. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. 1 John 5:4-5. For everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes the world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, guys, thank you for listening. Hope you learned something. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share to anyone who feel like needs to hear this message. And keep watching, because I should be uploading the 2 videos about the flesh and the deceiver soon. Okay, have a good day, everyone.